All right. Welcome back, everyone. This is Kenneth Ellington. This is, I don't know, like episode, I want to say 14 or so of the year. For today's session, we're going to be covering, like I'm talking about, like I'm a structure. So we're going to be covering how to become a SIEM engineer in 2025, right? That's a layered topic as well. So we'll be covering that. And as always, any questions or concerns you may have for me, just let me know. Feel free to drop a question inside the chat, and I will be answering any questions you may have about that at all. So I know this is supposed to be done for the last week, but we had technical issues with StreamYard. I do apologize about that. For some godforsaken reason, it deleted the link, so I cannot get inside of my own session, which is extremely annoying, but it does happen. So my apologies towards that, for that happening. But for today, everything seems to be working. So we should be good to go on that front. So again, any questions you guys have, just let me know. All right, perfect. So first off, let me ask my audience here. Who here is currently a SIEM engineer right now? You can drop your comments inside of the chat, either from YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If Twitter's working, which it is not. Wonderful. Or X now it's called. So for those of you that are already SIEM engineers, let me know inside the chat. I'm curious to see. If no one's a SIEM engineer currently that's watching right now, I'll go over what that actually entails. Is no one a SIEM engineer? No way. That's okay. It looks like no one is a SIEM engineer from the looks of it, which is okay. So if you're not a SIEM engineer, I'll explain what that is. And take this with a grain of salt. Every organization, every industry is slightly different for how they categorize like what a SIEM engineer actually is. So take what I say with a grain of salt, right? But a SIEM engineer from the standpoint of security information event monitoring systems is an engineer that will manage the backend aspect of a SIEM platform, right? Which will consist of data ingestion, parsing data, right? In the case of Splunk, creating null objects sometimes, right? Managing the architecture sometimes as well. Building custom apps or applications, or building custom data connectors, or whatever SIEM platform you use. They call it different. Splunk, they're called add-ons and ops, and Microsoft Sentinel, they are called data connectors. I almost forgot. So it just varies and depends on what that will actually look like, right? From that standpoint. So that is your functional job, is to manage that aspect of it, right? Some firms will combine all the engineering roles inside of multiple ones. So there will be SIEM engineer, detection engineer. Those are sometimes be combined into not separate, but the same role, right? For larger organizations, those roles will be split up to different aspects of it. So you'll have a SIEM engineer, you'll have a detection engineer, you'll have a SIEM architect, right? An architect that designs the SOC environment from that standpoint, right? You'll then have cloud engineers that will handle the actual CI/CD pipeline to develop those, right? So it just varies on which organization actually has in terms of its actual staffing capacity, right? For our purposes, we'll consider SIEM engineer just a backend, right? If you're more of a detection engineer, you will handle more of the front end aspect of it, right? So actually building custom detection rules and custom logic for your organization from a security standpoint, right? that would be much more in line with actually being a detection engineer, right, compared towards an actual SIEM engineer, right? So that would just vary and depend on what your actual contains for that regard, all right? Again, normally larger firms will have them separated, smaller firms will have them combined due to budget constraints, right? But this depends. I personally have worked all those roles. I've been a SIEM engineer, SIEM architect. I've been an analyst. I've been a consultant. I've been an advisor. I've been a threat hunter, threat intelligence analyst, right? So I've had to wear many different hats in my medium career. It's only been 7 years, right? But again, it just varies and depends on what you actually want to do from that standpoint. So I'll pose a question towards the chat. You put it here. Here, I'll say this and I'll type it for those that don't have their volume on, maybe they're at work or something. Who here wants to become a SIEM engineer this year? I'll type that in. Let me ping Sophie because she's supposed to be on as well and answer some of your questions. I'll give you guys around a minute to write your responses or come. No, you can't come off mute. This is a webinar. Just write your responses inside the chat if you have any questions about it. Give you guys about 30 seconds. Let me see. Let's see. Are there any? No. Okay, interesting. All right. Well, for those of you that, let's say, want to come on, but you guys are at work or not able to watch the session live, that is fine, right? So for those of you that do want to become a SIEM engineer, right, for this year or next year potentially, we'll go with this year because the year's almost over. There are certain things you'll have to learn and do, and if you want to hit that type of role, right? Let's see. So a couple of things, right? I'll start off with being tool agnostic, then we'll start to niche down toward different platforms that you can actually learn to actually get a role in that area, right? So let's start off with first thing you should learn if you should be a SIEM engineer, right? Ideally, you will have previous SIEM experience. Being a SIEM engineer normally isn't a junior role, right? From the standpoint of zero experience, right? Normally, I would say between like probably 2 years of experience. Ideally, you want to be a SIEM engineer, right? That can be IT or cybersecurity, right? This isn't a commandment from God, right? But it is ideal for a lot of the roles that you want to try to apply for. Excuse me. So let's say you have that type of experience, right? From there, some of the things I would say would be understanding logging and monitoring basics and fundamentals, right? So how does data get ingested from end to end, right? Which means you need to understand operating systems, common ones are Windows and Linux, right? For Linux, whatever OS your firm uses or whatever OS you want to use, they're all on the back end almost exactly the same, all right? There's just slight differences in what they actually want to do for whatever applications they're trying to manage from that standpoint. So that is fine from the standpoint of Linux, right? Understand operating system fundamentals, right? How do they actually work, right? How do they actually ingest logs, right? Or not ingest logs. What type of logs do they actually create, right? Understanding how some platforms at their core actually ingest logs and manage it. How do they actually parse data? Because some platforms will do that, all right? They'll ingest log, parse data, and then route it to somewhere else, right? And how they do that is functionally the same for the most part. The naming conventions of their components are just slightly different, right? So keep that in mind. But if you understand how like Splunk works, or you understand how Logtail works, you can use any of the SIEM platform that you want to use, right? That isn't a really big issue. So those would be two things to start off with, right? One, understanding logging and monitoring fundamentals. Second would be understanding operating systems at their core as well. Those would be two really good things to start off with, right? Now, where can you learn that? Shameless plug us, so you can learn it from us, right? But if you want to go somewhere else, here's a couple places you can go, right? So let me see. I think Code Academy still has it. I'll share my screen in a second. Again, any questions, please drop them inside the chat. I'm texting my team members right now, see if they can come on to help you guys out. Let's go towards, let me share my screen. Catalog, let me see. T-shirt. This is one of the ones I used to learn Linux back when I was in college. It's called Code Academy. I think most people here know who Code Academy is. They're not too pricey either. They have a lot of free stuff as well. But if you've never used Linux before, this is a really, really good place to start off with. A lot of different ones you can use, right? So let's say if you want to do introduction to Linux, it's a really good one. This is around 4 hours long. This is one you guys can do in the weekend if you honestly want to. So give you a lot of really good hands-on experience, because all the stuff is hands-on. If you wanted to actually do something like this is something that I would suggest towards you guys that you guys actually do. Again, if you don't work in cybersecurity or IT in general, so you don't work as a cloud security engineer, a detection engineer, you're gonna be a SIEM engineer, or you're gonna be an architect, you'll have to know how Linux works, right? Windows and Linux, but Linux specifically, right? So understanding file system, operating systems, how to set up an environment, right? How to download a Linux server, right? How to set up, how to configure it, right? The features of it, right? How to use Bash, right? How to write Bash scripts, right? Practicing with the shell, with the command line, right? These are really, really good, important skills on how to actually do that, right? So again, this is something I would highly suggest to people that want to become a SIEM engineer. Understanding Linux is very important, right? So definitely check this out. Another thing that I often get asked as well is, should I learn or should I know how to code? Be a SIEM engineer. You don't have to know how to code, but it is very helpful if you do. For me, for example, I used to be a software engineer, right? So I was a software engineer for a year. I hated it. I did not like it at all. I hated programming in Java all day. I thought it was awful. So I went back to cybersecurity. But I learned a lot of really cool information because of that, and gained a lot of really cool knowledge and skills because I was a software engineer for a little over a year. So honestly, my advice towards you is pick one language, get really good at it, then pivot from there if you need to, right? Don't try to learn 8 different languages. Don't really help you out. So most popular ones that are helpful for most security roles, right? And let's say SIEM engineer would be probably Bash, PowerShell, Python. JSON isn't a real programming language, but JSON for like TypeScript. Any one of those, you'll be fine. Honestly, you'll be fine. So For example, you can learn Python. You can learn Python here as well, right? So Python here, it says 23 hours. So again, you can do this probably in, depends how ambitious you are, but I would say maybe under a month, all right? We have our first comment. I want to understand symbolic link and hard link with a clear example. Lether, I'm a little bit confused by your question. Could you clarify that for us, please? So yeah, if you wanted to learn Python, this is where you could actually learn it as well, right? There's dozens of different sources as well. We teach this inside the program as well, but there's dozens of different sources you can learn if your goal is to learn Python. All right, so keep that in mind as well. All right. If we get any other questions at all, just feel free to drop it inside of the chat, comment section. Then 3 things we covered so far. Operating systems, which you can learn from here, right? Long and morning fundamentals, right? And then if you want to learn a programming or scripting language, there's a bunch of different options, but the 4 I would suggest towards you, and list and learn one, then pivot towards there. Please don't try to learn all 4 of them. You'll get a headache and it won't probably be as good. Would be in any order: PowerShell, Bash, Python, JSON, or maybe JavaScript or something like that, right? Bash is Linux. PowerShell is for everything Windows. So if you use Sentinel, for example, you use a lot of Windows backend processes, PowerShell will be very helpful for you. Linux for most other platforms. Bash is very helpful for creating scripts, navigate around a command line. Python for a lot of other different platforms, especially for SOAR, super helpful. And JSON for Sentinel, and Times for hyper automation as well. And then Splunk backend for Splunk dashboards as well, and other stuff as well. JSON super helpful. Any questions about some of the topics that we covered? We covered 3 main things you should learn. There's 2 more things I'd probably suggest towards you as well that you should know if you want to be a SIEM engineer. Oh, and everyone, welcome Sophie. Again, Sophie is my cyber program manager. She works on my staffing and consulting side as well. So any questions you have about career questions, what hiring managers are looking for instead of candidates, just feel free to ask her.
Hi, everyone. I was late due to technical difficulties, but I'm here to answer any questions you guys all have.
She's just mad at me. It's okay. It happens. I don't see any questions. And your facial expression will never not be funny, Sophie. It will never not be funny.
I figured. I just can't hide it.
Let me see. Next thing would be, see if they have it here. I don't know if they have. Oh, wait a minute. Networking. Let's see here. Oh, they actually do. That is impressive. Other part I would say would be to learn networking. Would be another really, really important part. Honestly, for every cyber role, honestly, networking is super important. Let me clarify. For technical cybersecurity roles, networking is super fundamental, right? So understanding networking is going to help you guys out a lot, right? That is probably one of my weakest areas within the technical space, right? So there's different certifications you can get if you want to go that route. If you just want to study the actual knowledge of the cert just to have it, that is fine. You don't have to actually take the certification per se, right? I think more important to actually have the knowledge and to be able to actually do the role and the functions of the job, right? But again, this is on Code Academy. If there's ones you want to take, like study Network Plus or CCNA, which is or CCNA. I think is the gold standard. If I'm correct for networking, please correct me if I'm wrong. It's an option you can do as well. All right. So let me go to pricing. Let's see how much it costs. But yeah, networking is super important. There's dozens. Let me go back here real quick. There's a bunch of different ones you can do as well, right? You have let's see, Network Plus, CCNA, right? It's your DevOps as well, right? So this depends on which one you want to take. Go pricing, for example, to see. Let's go for individuals. How much will this actually cost? So if you wanted to get this per month, you can get, there's always a free version. You can do $30 per month or $40 per month, depending on what you want, right? It depends up to you. And this is one option you can take. And there's one more skill I would say would be super important, right? So once you do those 4 different things, and again, we'll cover them. I'll go over them briefly again. Logging and monitoring fundamentals, and then operating systems, Windows and Linux. So backend Windows, Linux, command line processes for that, or command prompt. Third would be if you want to learn a programming language. You don't have to. I'll probably suggest you get decently good at one, right? Yeah, and you can do Python, Bash, PowerShell, JSON, JavaScript, and pick one, get really good at it, and go from there. Fourth one would be networking, which would be the other one I would say to really hammer home on. And the last one would be is if you want to specialize. You want to specialize in a platform, then you can definitely do that. So let's say you want to use Splunk, for example. All right. You can go on their careers page. You can look at type of roles they were trying to hire for, some of the skill sets that they want to specialize in, right? Again, Splunk works with, I want to say, 90% of Fortune 100 firms and most government agencies will have Splunk inside of it. So it's a popular platform on the market. It is, in my professional opinion, the best one. I've used 5 different SIEM platforms. It is my most favorite one by far. I've used QRadar, which is dog trash. I never use it. I've used Google SecOps. I've used Sentinel. I've used LogScale. I've used Splunk. So let's go towards roles. And let's go with remote for now. Or actually, no, it's fine. Do full time. Let's do security. Let's filter down. How many is this for now? Didn't tell me, or just no? Let's say. Let me see here. Oh, wasn't very helpful. Let's do security risk analyst. Let's do something basic. What are they looking for, right? Obviously, if you have Splunk experience, you're finding Splunk, that is ideal, obviously, right? So these are some of the things you're looking for a candidate, for example, right? So actually isn't that hard. Proficient tools such as Jira, GC, Microsoft, right? Because you're a risk analyst, right? Again, having access, understanding cloud environments, right? And to know how to use cloud, you need to know how to do those other fundamental things first, right? Operating systems, because cloud is just someone that accesses external resources. That's it. That's all it is, right? So you need to understand the fundamentals of IT and cybersecurity from that standpoint, right? Different frameworks as well will be helpful too, right? And then this is in Costa Rica dollars, right? This is not U.S. dollars, all right? Not paying you $24 million, all right? Keep it in mind, all right? yeah. From a training perspective, all right, if you want to use Splunk to get started with, they have a lot of different training you can do. So let's go towards training. Let's say that you want to do training, right? You know, core catalogs. So for anyone that wants to be a SOC analyst, a security engineer, for example, you want to specialize in Splunk, which is not a bad bet. This is normally the path I'll put them on, right? So let's say, for example, you want to start an analyst. What I'll do is I'll go to Splunk core user, right? I'll narrow it down, and then I'll go towards. I'll do a paid, I think. Where's the free stuff? Hold on. Let me do it this way. It's way easier. Or I'm taking Google. Splunk. If you want to do that, you can click here and go core user. It's only like 10 that you need to do for core user. But that's the most fundamental one. That's something that I suggest a candidate take if they want to get good at Splunk, at least to start to understand the platform. And then so we can talk towards this as well. But a lot of our clients will want you to have some type of certification if you're trying to specialize in a certain platform, right? If you want to be good at Microsoft or like Sentinel or their security stack, they want you to have like SC200, 300. If you're trying to use Splunk, they want you to have that. If you're trying to CrowdStrike, they want you to have that, right? Sophie, anything I'm missing?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess from our client side,
Yeah.
our clients want our candidates to have certain certifications if they're trying to like specialize in a certain technology stack, correct?
It depends on the role because we have roles that specialize in Splunk, and consulting with our clients, I've had if they're not certified in Splunk, if they don't have any knowledge of Splunk, like it's not going to work. But using different CM platforms does help you understand other CM platforms. If you're going for a specific role, if, for example, a role we have is Splunk Enterprise Administrator, then you'd have to have that certification and that specialization in that CM platform. But if you were to have a more general role where the requirements were a bit more open, you could get away with using different CM platforms.
Yeah, I know that's something they've been harping on as well, right? So again, certifications aren't end all be all, but if you do want to get them, they are helpful in some different scenarios, right? So at the end of the day, right? Actually being able to actually do the work of the job is super important, right? So make sure you can actually do that, right? Because having certification itself won't save the world, for example, right? So keep that in mind. I'll pause for a second because I've been yapping on for a little bit. Are there any questions from you or Sophie at all?
You're getting cut off a little bit. I think that's why I didn't catch you the last time. So just in case.
Am I not clear, guys? Just let me know if I'm not clear.
That's at least on my end.
Okay. Yeah. If anyone has any questions from me or Sophie at all, feel free to drop them inside the chat. We'll give you guys a second to write your questions about like things you need to study for, certifications you might need to get, best methods to study, people you should talk to, anything. So let us know. Questions. 100%. And then Sophie, what would you say is probably the most sought after skill or aspect that our clients are trying to look for?
Right now, we have a series of Splunk rules that I personally haven't been able to, find someone with a specific skill set that our client has requested, and I've had conversations with our client about, this role and who I can push through, what requirements are super strict and not. And I'd say that right now Splunk is on high demand because I have not gotten a great influx of candidates that I had been able to submit for those roles because, they don't have the certifications or they don't have the skill sets or they don't have the experience with the technical experience. So I'd say that Splunk right now is really in demand with our clients, but I've seen Microsoft Sentinel and other CM platforms as well. I've seen a little bit of CrowdStrike. So those are probably my top three.
Have our clients been asking for any AI skills lately from what you've been seeing?
Yes, especially in the software development roles. I've been seeing a lot of machine learning related to AI in demand, and the requirements, they're pretty strict, specifically for those roles, and it's very little people that I've encountered with those skill sets as well. So, these are really valuable in the industry right now. I'd encourage everyone to get acquire some knowledge in these specific topics because it's really in, and I haven't been able to scout someone and say, okay, I can confidently submit you and get good feedback from my client. I definitely highly recommend those. We have a question.
Do we? Let me see. Thoughts on quantum computing and how it might affect some engineering. Also, do you know any roles overseas in the Gulf where I have a few Splunk certifications and experience? To your first question, honestly, I have no idea whatsoever. I'm not a quantum computing expert by any shape, form, means, so I could not answer that question. I know it affects more cryptography standpoint, from a security standpoint for encryption, but that's as far as my knowledge go. After your second question, we I don't think we have any overseas roles. Most of the stuff is stateside. But there are firms that are hiring for the expertise. I know like Leidos, for example, right, more of the bigger government contracting agencies are trying to hire for more overseas role from like a security standpoint. So I would definitely, I think most of them might require security clearance, which is I'm gonna guess. So if you have that, I'd definitely try to aim for that. Yeah, for the quantum computing, I have no idea. That's beyond my scope what I do. So I will
Yeah,
not
what
lie
I've
to you.
heard of quantum computing is just that it's probably something that's still very in the works, and in the military, but it's gonna come out eventually, like everything that has come out. So that's an interesting question. And we don't have overseas roles, like Kenneth said, not for the moment.
Yeah, that wouldn't be something we could do. But I know that, and again, I know the larger government contract agencies will have more of those. Like Leidos has one. I think Lockheed Martin has a bunch as well. Raytheon as well. Some of the smaller ones that are much bigger than us will have some too. You can definitely like reach out towards them if you live like in the DMV area. Hell, you can probably ask, and they'll tell you about it. What are questions you guys have for us? Do not be shy. think I've covered majority of what I want to talk about. There's like 2 other points I want to cover. So point number 1, probably you guys are wondering, are there jobs in this sector from like a SIEM engineering standpoint? Yes, there still are. There are still a lot of firms trying to hire for these type of roles. So we still do need people for that, right? Market is harder than it was like 2 to 3 years ago, so keep that in mind. So if you have, I should put this, the better your networking, the more you're able to get referred and actually speak towards different people, the better off you are of trying to actually land a role, right? Because it is very hard to directly apply on a company site and then get a job, right? Just nature of the beast now, right? So if you're able to actually build and create a network and have proper connections, right? That meaning people actually know what you can do, what value you actually provide towards them in the firm. You increase your chances of landing an interview tenfold, right? If I transport people to build connections, go to networking events, look for a job when you don't need one, and help people out when you don't need a job, right? Makes it much less awkward. It makes it much less uncomfortable. And it makes it much less, or it makes it more likely they'll actually want to help you out in return. Those are just a couple of tips that I'll tell you beyond just SIEM engineering overall, just any type of security role. And I have one more point of what AJ puts. What's something you're currently reading, studying that doesn't have to be cyber? Non-cyber, probably. So I live in DFW, and DFW is expanding their airport. The airport's absolutely massive. So they're expanding it. They're building a new terminal E. Is it E or is it F? I don't know. One of those letters, E or F. Building a brand new terminal expansion. They're also revamping some of the old terminals, building parking garages, right? Building a new or extension towards the Skyway tram. So I've been reading up on that for the past couple months because I fly like once a month, right? Doesn't affect me personally, right? I'm very happy about it because it needs to be done, right? So they built up the airport in sections, right? So the terminal I normally fly out, which is Terminal C, it's like from the 60s. It's the original terminal. Well, it's very old and very dingy, so it needs to be renovated. So I'm very happy about that, right? They've already done like I think like D, so D is like completely revamped. It looks beautiful. So they have those. Sophie, they have the cardless entry things or the touchless things where you just walk inside of it. And there's no cashier, right? You just basically you scan your card, it opens up the doors, you go inside, you pick your item out, and there's cameras that can sense when something gets picked up by you. You just walk out, and then it automatically charges your card, right? So this was 2 years ago when they launched this new store inside the terminal. It's funny because there's instructions on how to actually get inside, right? Like big screens, there's instructions on how to actually use it, but people can't read. So some try to like rip open the door to get inside of the actual store, but he couldn't like read to put his card in, which I thought was very funny. Yeah, just stuff like that, right? That affects my local community that I like to read and study about. It's like over investment stuff too, inside of like DFW for my own personal interest. So, but for the most part, most of my stuff is either like business related or cybersecurity that I study. For the most part, just hence it takes up a lot of my free time. But any other questions? So what I'll do now is I covered almost everything I want to talk about today. So what I'll do now is I'll go over my last point. And in the last 20 minutes or so, we'll be open up towards open questions you guys may have for me or Sophie. So my last point, I harp on this every single call, as Sophie knows. Like hard things are meant to be hard, right? Is what I'll put it. Everything you want, while everything that's worth any weight or any salt in life is going to be harder and harder than you expect and take longer than you want, right? So keep that in mind, right? People often come toward me saying, I've been trying to get cybersecurity for the past 6 months and I can't find a role. Then why is it taking so long? And my response is 6 months that long, right? Because my thought process, right? If my goal was to become a heart surgeon, that might take me 8 to 10 years of my lifetime to do that, right? That means what? 15% of my life on this beautiful earth God has blessed me to be on is taken up doing one single thing, right? Just one single focus. And I'll probably have to spend another probably $250,000, $300,000 to go to medical school, right? And go to debt to do that, right? So keep that in mind, right? Everything that is worthwhile is going to be hard, right? It's just up to you to understand your why and choose your heart, right? And it's okay if you realize that's not cybersecurity. That is fine. There's a lot of other ways you can make a lot of different money, right? So keep that in mind, right? Just understand what your goals are, what the reason you're trying to get inside this field, what actually matters towards you, right? Because if it's just money, which is fine, right? Everyone has to eat, right? I understand that, right? But if it's purely money, you probably won't last very long in this field, right? Because you're reaching a certain threshold and you'll just get bored and stop or get burnt out, right? So keep that in mind as to what your why is to want to be within this field, and then let that guide you, right? Because if your why is strong enough, you can overcome anyhow, right? And so I've always looked at it. So keep that in mind. I think AJ put another question for you, Sophie. What are you studying, Sophie, that's not cyber related?
What I'm studying that's not cyber related. I dive into a lot of stuff outside of my career. I really like non-fictional fables. Well, magic realism is that, I don't know if that's the direct translation, but I do read fables about life and about I guess practicing mindfulness and one's personal journey. I feel like that helps me a lot in my career, and kind of diving into what I like without the fear or without that anxiety that one can experience, that imposter syndrome. So I feel like that helps me a lot, not only in my personal life, but in my career. And it's a good pastime, to kind of clock out and read a book, connect with yourself, connect with nature. Definitely, if you're doing something in your career and it's big and it's hard, yes, do that. But I also like to practice and preach that one can have some downtime and I guess feed their soul in a different way. So I think I read a lot of magic realism or real fables about life. That's kind of what I'm into. And if not, I read about cars. I like mechanics. Um, that's kind of what I'm currently into. I could dive a little bit deeper, but it's all to feed my soul and I guess express myself in different ways in my career. So I feel like that really helps.
Sophie does like expensive things. She flies not for classic, she me private because you get really upset about me. So not private again. I'm sorry, Sophie. Yeah, private. I don't know. I don't know the difference between. I'm broke, so I don't know. I fly under the carriage in the Spirit Airlines. So that's all I can afford.
Business class once, just once.
Yeah, once every week, right? So it's okay. She's like, Coach. She's like, I'm gonna savage. I'm gonna sit with the mongrels there. What's wrong with you?
No, definitely not. But I enjoy the sense of humor.
What for car? Probably drive a Bentley, Aston Martin.
Not at all. I drive a 2011 Suzuki.
So,
it's really pretty. It's really cute, and it's simple and it's cheap.
I drive a Honda Sonata. But for the last 15 minutes, or right early, no one has any questions. Any questions from me or Sophia, though?
If you guys have any questions about the recruitment process, resumes, the job market right now from a recruiter's perspective, someone who actively looks at resumes, screens, does part of the hiring process, just let me know. We're here to answer all your questions.
Giving it 3 more minutes. See if anybody has any questions for us at all. Okay, now for next week, we're going to be bringing on Courtney's coming on as well. So I'm very thankful for. Then probably Nigel too, and then 2 weeks after that, I'll be bringing on Dominique and then Markeisha. So that will be a really good session as well. So I need to put that inside of the actual calendar for them. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah. So it'll be a good one. Those are the next 2 ones we have for next 3 weeks or so. So definitely, the one with Courtney is already out. That will be July 28th. So sign up for that one. It's under my events tab as well. And then one with Markeisha and Dominique will be, I think, August 11th or so, that Monday. So I'm looking forward towards those specific sessions. So I don't have any other questions for us at all. Let's see here.
Thank you, Vincent, for tuning in. Make sure to connect.
It looks like no one has any questions for us. If that is the case, then we'll end tonight. Again, next session will be next week because it got postponed a week, so we'll have back-to-back sessions this week and next week. Definitely sign up on our events tab for it. If you have questions about it, just let me or Sophie know. Again, our site is back up and running. We're doing maintenance today. We do maintenance tomorrow as well. So if you can't get inside, that is the reason why. Everything's fine. Just some planned maintenance work. If you want to get more information about our programs or what we do here at ECA for training purposes to level up your career, just let me or Sophie know, and we'll get you booked on the call and go from there. But otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. And we'll see you July 28th at 7 p.m. Central Time. Thanks, everyone.